Welcome back. We just finished trimming our jog forward start and stop animations. But notice that when we move side to side, she still stays forward. So for now, we're going to implement a quick fix for this, but eventually we're going to want to do strafing behavior. So that'll come later. For now, we're going to make her turn towards her movement. So let's go back into our character class in Visual Studio. Let's scroll up to the character's constructor. And let's add the following. So just under our configuration for the follow camera, we're going to make sure that the character does not rotate with the controller anymore. What I mean by that is if I click play and I move the mouse, the character is moving along with the controller because our mouse input is calling add controller, pitch, and yaw input functions, and the camera is following that, but our character is too, and that's not what we want. So back in Visual Studio, in the shooter character constructor, we're going to access the inherited booleans called b use controller rotation pitch. And I'm going to set this to false. This ensures that we're not using the controller rotation pitch for the character mesh. We're also going to access b use controller rotation yaw. This will also be false. And b use controller rotation roll. All three of these will be false. We'll add a comment to this saying don't rotate when the controller rotates. Let the controller only affect the camera. Now, instead of rotating the character with the controller, we're going to rotate the character to the direction of movement. We can do this by accessing the character movement component. Now, if you'll recall, when I had the character movement component open in the Unreal Engine documentation earlier, this was what we had to include, game framework / character movement component.h. So I'm going to include that here up at the top of shooter character. Now we're going to access that by using get character movement. And the character movement component has a boolean called b orient rotation to movement. We're going to set this equal to true. And it also has a rotation rate for this, which is an f rotator. We're going to access it with get character movement rotation rate. We'll set this equal to an f rotator using the constructor that takes three float parameters. We're going to use 0.f for the pitch, 540.f for the yaw, and 0.f for the roll. This rotator determines the rotation rate when orienting to the direction of movement. Now we're zeroing out the pitch and the roll because we only want to rotate in the yaw direction. Remember, if you're standing and looking both ways before you cross the street, your head is turning its yaw. That's the rotational direction that we care about. So I'm going to add a comment just above this saying configure character movement. And on the line here where we're setting B orient rotation to movement to true, I'm going to say character moves in the direction of input. And on the next line where we're setting rotation rate, I'm going to say at this rotation rate. Okay, next we're going to set our jump z velocity. So this is on the character movement component as well. So let's get character movement and access jump z velocity. Let's set this to 600.f. And finally, we can set our air control. Get character movement. And character movement has air control, which is just a measure of how much control we can have while in the air. I'll set this to a value of 0.2f. Now again, these are values you can experiment with and tweak until you get them right for your game. Let's compile this. All right, let's hop back into the editor and press play. Now notice we can rotate around and the character stays still. Now if we move to the side, she rotates in the direction of her movement, which is exactly what we wanted. Now, after you've changed these properties in the constructor, if you're not getting the desired behavior, you need to check the character blueprint to make sure that those values are taking hold. For example, search in the details panel for yaw with shooter character BP self selected. And you'll see here, use controller rotation yaw is checked. Now the value here in the blueprint will override the value that you set in the constructor, so you need to make sure to change it here as well. Select the character movement component and search for orient, and you'll see that orient rotation to movement exists here as a checkbox as well. So make sure orient rotation to movement is true, and make sure use controller rotation pitch, yaw, and roll are all false. Now we can alter the speed of that rotation with rotation rate. We also have a certain jump speed, and we have a little bit of air control. If we jump, we can move a little bit while we're in the air. That's that air control we were talking about. Now, yes, we are still running while in the air, so we haven't configured the animation yet to take care of jumping. We'll get to that, don't worry. There's still a lot of things to work on. But for now, we've taken care of sideways movement. In future videos, we're actually going to get strafing working, so that's something to look forward to. So this concludes this video. In the next video, we're going to start programming shooting so she can actually start using her gun. How exciting! See you in the next video.